Greetings, I'm JV Altheros. Welcome to episode 4 of Ending the Sexual Dark Age. This show is directed towards people of all sexual and cultural persuasions, dedicated to dispelling 1,000 years of sexual hypocrisy, misconceptions, shame, and outright lies. Society's attitudes towards everything relating to sex are frozen in time, and the time they're frozen in wasn't particularly good for anyone. We've been living far too long in a true sexual dark age, and I'm fucking sick of it. This show is my attempt to do something about it. Ending the sexual dark age is not about how to get laid, but the confidence you'll gain from sexual success will help you get laid. This show isn't specifically about relationships, but great sex will improve any relationship. If you like what you hear, I strongly suggest you check out the first episode, which is an introduction to who I am, what this show is all about, and why you should give a fuck what I think. I said at the end of the last episode that I was wavering on the next topic, and I decided to go with male stamina. The shame game is a deep enough thought process that I really want to nail it, and I want to get it all straight in my head first. That's worth waiting a little bit to do that. So this time I'll be talking about male sexual stamina, specifically, to paraphrase the immortal words of Luke Skywalker, how to love her long time. One of the key aspects of truly great sex is understanding that when you're in a relationship with someone, you're actually in two relationships. Girls, when you're with a guy, you have a relationship with the man, and a separate but equally important relationship with his cock. Guys, you know what the other side of this coin looks like. You can be the most understanding, romantic guy in the world and keep up your end on the woman half of your relationship, but if you don't give that pussy the respect and attention it deserves, you're not doing it right. Always remember that keeping her pussy happy is a separate job. For long-term great sex, you need at least two people, both managing both of those relationships. We also have a third relationship with our own equipment, be it a cock, a pussy, or, well, if there's something else, pics or it didn't happen. Your relationship with your lover's naughty bits is a topic for another day, but I mention it because it leads me to the core principle of male stamina. A cock is nothing more than a tool that makes everyone happy when you're using it right. It's a tool, not a wise man that gives good advice, not a slut detector, well, not just a slut detector. As always, I mean slut as in sexually liberated and uncommonly twisted, slut being a compliment in my house. A cock is a tool for getting women off, but only with a qualified operator. Guys, I hate to break it to you, but a lot of you are going to need to develop an entirely new relationship with your cock. You're going to have to demote it and stop letting it make decisions for you. We all do it for a while, usually while we're young, but eventually your dick needs to be demoted from full partner to trusted advisor. Ever fucked up a perfectly good relationship because you just couldn't resist banging some hot piece of strange that fell in your lap? Your dick needs to be demoted. Ever suspected some hottie was crazy from the outset but fucked her anyway because you just couldn't stop yourself, then ended up with a stalker? Your dick needs to be demoted. Hell, that shit right there was what got my dick demoted back in the day. It's the nature of a hard cock to want to get somewhere warm and wet as quickly as possible, and you don't build a good sex life on such short-sighted thinking. Remember, all great sex revolves around the female orgasm. Your cock can do a lot of things in support of the female orgasm. As I said in the last show, about 3/4 of women don't get off from cock alone. It's a fucking tragic statistic, but it's what we're working with. I suspect that if we had more registered cocksmiths out there, we could swing those numbers at least a little bit in the right direction. The sexual dark age breeds generation after generation of men who were never taught how to properly use their cocks, so it's really anybody's guess, but I truly believe there's genuine room for improvement. The fact that a given woman has never previously gotten off from penetration doesn't necessarily mean she's physiologically unable to. It's possible she spent her entire life fucking two-pump chumps or guys who had longevity but no style. Not likely, but possible. Even if your girl can't be fucked over the edge, there's always room for better, and your performance and mindset should reflect the fact that any time could be the first time. Make peace with the fact that it might never happen, but remember, even if she can't actually get off, she still loves a good fucking as long as you're doing it right. Better is better, and there's always room for more. Girls, if you've been listening, you know that I'm in the process of trying to get all the guys to accept that for a lot of you, it just won't happen. You're just not going to have an orgasm from cock alone. That means they need to eat at the Y early and often, but I'm also trying to make whatever cock you're getting better. So, as I encourage your guy to keep trying to get you off, whether he can or not, don't you fake it. Don't you dare fake an orgasm. A man never needs that particular ego boost. If you have a sex life built on fake orgasms, we'll turn that around for you in time. But if you find yourself with a new guy, remember, every time you fake an orgasm, somebody punches a kitten. That's right, a nice, cuddly, little furry, sweet, cute, adorable kitten gets a punch right in the face every time you fake an orgasm. Guys, if life hasn't led you to do this already, demote your dick to advisor status and give him his rightful place on your tool belt, along with your hands, your tongue, and whatever toys you may or may not fancy. A happy pussy is a wet pussy, and a wet pussy means your cock will get invited in a whole lot more often. Since I'm about to quote another study, I'd like to take a minute to explain my relationship with numbers and statistics. I love them. I like to look for patterns in numbers and then draw conclusions based on the patterns I see. I admit that in my day-to-day life, I'm a little bit of a stats junkie. For pretty much any given study, on anything, you can find one with very different or opposite results. As I hope you know by now, my only agenda here is to help you have better sex and get more of it. I don't have any interest in seeking out numbers that support predefined conclusions that I'm trying to justify. I've never rolled that way, and I'd rather have objective stats that tell me whatever they might end up telling me. Whenever I get into quoting stats on this show, you can be assured that I've done some actual research. I do what I consider to be my due diligence, and I always look at multiple sources when I'm in search of statistics to pass along to you. Before I quote numbers, I need to get to a point where I see three things. First, I want a study in which the big picture results are supported by multiple other sources. The one outlying set of results from the guy with the crazy beard will never be something I mention unless those results are entertaining in some way, and even then there'll be a disclaimer. Second, I look for results that are formatted in a way that allows me to make easy use of them. Pretty charts and graphs help a lot in seeing the big picture quickly, and honestly, I cannot be bothered to go through piles of data myself. I just don't have the time or patience. Finally, I am indeed on the lookout for numbers that support what my own experience and observations have shown me. But in the case of statistics, that's really my last consideration. So, before I quote anyone's numbers, they need to line up with multiple sources and what I've seen and heard from a lot of women. That's what I consider to be a good set of stats, and that's what I need before tossing numbers out to you guys. Much like cock size, our concept of male stamina is wrapped in bullshit and insecurity. We perceive that the longer a guy lasts, the more of a man he is. The realities of sexual stamina are way more complicated and subjective than that, but in the absence of actual information and education, humans always revert pretty quickly to a pack or herd mentality. What's that, Captain Obvious? Most guys exaggerate when they talk about their own performance. That's right. When guys say, dude, I fucked her for like an hour, they're almost certainly bullshitting. They may have been naked and getting nasty for an hour or more, but it's highly unlikely that the actual fucking lasted that long. That doesn't stop these reports from causing needless insecurity among much of the male population. Some guys actually think they last that long because it feels like that long to them. Time is a relative concept. It seems to speed up and slow down depending on what we're doing. If we want to talk numbers about stamina, we need a common frame of reference. In a pure sense, sexual longevity has to be measured from the time you stick it in till the time you blow a load. Guys who last longer than 20 minutes are rare, and for most women, that's actually something longer than what they want. I'm referring here to a study done on 500 couples, which is a nice healthy sampling, from the Netherlands, UK, Spain, Turkey, and the US. About 14% of guys last less than 2.5 minutes. The range from 2.5 to 5.5 covers another 40%, so altogether, over half of guys last less than 5.5 minutes, and 65% last less than 7.5 minutes. A measly 6% of guys last longer than 19 minutes. That means that every time you've been sitting around drinking with your buddies and somebody said, oh yeah, dude, I banged that chick for like an hour and a half last night, 19 times out of 20, it was absolute bullshit. What may not seem intuitive is the desired duration aspect, and according to most women, that's 7 to 13 minutes. That's a far cry from the long dick stories you've almost certainly heard from your friends. This range, from 7 to 13 minutes, covers around 30% of guys altogether, which I think is an encouraging statistic. A lot of guys also aren't too far below the 7 minutes, and stamina is definitely something you can work to improve over time. Guys are the ones who put the high importance on stamina as a reflection of manhood, partially because it's one of those things that affects our sexual confidence, and telling macho cock stories to your buddies is something you can get away with since they're not likely to call you on it. It's the nature of the beast. No guy is going to say, bullshit, I've never lasted longer than 6 minutes and my woman loves it. We don't tend to go out on limbs to risk embarrassment. Psychologically, we naturally view the time spent actually fucking as what's important in sex. Again, because most of us haven't had a real opportunity to learn different. For women, it's a much bigger picture. On balance, women would much rather have a guy who's happy to lick pussy for 10 or 15 minutes, get them off once or twice, and then fuck them for all of 3 minutes, as opposed to the guy who doesn't go down but lasts half an hour. Most women would much rather have cock number one. As with everything involving sex, there are physiological factors to consider too. A woman's supply of natural lubrication isn't infinite. It varies from woman to woman like everything else, but after a certain point you're going to be taking regular lube breaks, and those don't exactly add to the mood. After the third or fourth time you have to stop for lube, an air of finish up already starts to creep in no matter how hard you're trying. There's also the issue of soreness regarding lack of lube. Women generally start getting rubbed raw before men in most circumstances because the skin of our cocks is generally less sensitive inch for inch. The cock also spends all its time outside the body rubbing up against clothing, while the pussy is obviously on the inside, all the time. It tends to make any part of the body less sensitive than it would be if it were always protected. In short, any guy who actually lasted an hour would probably make most women some shade of unsatisfied. There are indeed guys out there who have serious issues getting off, similar to the way some women do. So some guys do seem to last forever. About 2% last longer than 30 minutes. I don't idolize those guys, rare though they are. I feel bad for them. Sex can be pretty exhausting when you're doing it right, and that's a fucking marathon every time you get your dick wet. I'd imagine those guys don't get as much head as they'd like to either, but I've got no numbers on that. Further, I'd be curious to know how numbers line up between guys who are cut and uncut, but again, I haven't seen any of those numbers. It's been suggested that number of strokes would be a better metric for longevity than actual time, and some research suggests that people who fuck slower do last longer. I can get behind this concept in theory, but every time I even consider trying to count strokes, I'm stuck with that vision of the owl trying to see how many licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop. 1, 2, 3, 3! That just might be me though. Regardless, it's pretty simple logic that slowing down your stroke will probably let you last a little longer. In reality, you should be varying the speed of your stroke anyway. Down the road, I'll be going deeper into my analogy that great sex is a symphony, with any given patch of naked time having several different moods, rhythms, and movements. No pun intended, for once. The great news is that if you'd like to last longer, there are a lot of ways to improve. Most of them are good for your sex life in general. There's a direct correlation between how often a guy is getting off and how long he lasts. Girls, you need to know that when you're only giving up the pussy once every few weeks, that fact alone drags your guy in the direction of a Minuteman. When you're getting laid regularly, your cock is all, warm, wet, tight place, let's have some fun in here. When it's been a while, Mr. Willie gets a little overexcited and it's more like, warm, wet, tight place, yeah, pussy, I finally got pussy again. Damn it, are we done already? Having less sex reduces the quality of whatever you're getting, in more than one way, but this is the easiest way that I can point to. Masturbation helps a lot of things, and I've got an entire show lined up on the topic of masturbation, but for the moment, I just want to note the simple physics of it all. Every inch of skin on your body can essentially get calloused and desensitized to various degrees. The more often things are rubbed back and forth across any given patch of skin, the less sensitive that skin's going to be. The cock is no different. It heals back to its stock level of sensitivity if it doesn't spend some time pounding in and out of something, a pussy, a mouth, a fist, a fleshlight, an inflatable sheep with nipple rings, or something. That reminds me, actually, of one of the most ridiculous things I ever saw when I was working with the strippers walking into a bachelor party. Right inside the front door, there was a table with party favors, including an inflatable sheep, with an inflatable woman's hand up its ass. That, my friends, was art. A cock that isn't getting stroked off regularly by hand, orifice, or device is going to become more sensitive, causing a guy to come quicker until it starts getting used again. Then it has to work its way back up to better stamina. If a guy isn't getting laid regularly, he should be jerking off more often. That's right, I said a lot of you guys probably don't jerk off enough. Spanking the monkey teaches the monkey how to take a beating. There are a whole lot of guys who need to get off one way or another at least once a day, and there's nothing unnatural about that. So, jerking off can help with the sensitivity side of stamina loss, but the issue is both physical and psychological. The primal part of a man's brain has trouble not listening to his cock, especially when the cock gets too excited. In fairness, if I only had one job, I'd try to get excited about it myself, which is why Mr. Willie can't take all the blame. Guys instinctively want more stamina for the same reason they instinctively want bigger dicks. They perceive that it will do more to please their woman. As with most sexual insecurities, the real concern is whether or not they're getting the job done. As far as pure stamina, i.e. the length of time you spend pounding away in there, you can do a lot to improve it through your stroke. Again, sex is a symphony, and if the rhythm doesn't change, it gets pretty fucking monotonous pretty fucking quickly. You want to get some personality in the way you swing your thing, as a simple matter of being a decent fuck. Guys who stick it in then pretend they're thrusting along with the metronome aren't doing themselves any favors, and 20 minutes of that is less likely to satisfy a woman than 5 minutes of a guy who knows how to work it. Last time we talked a little bit about mild orgasm denial for women to make the eventual orgasm something more intense. In the lightest possible application, the same principle doesn't necessarily improve an orgasm for men, but it can help you last longer. I should say that extreme versions of male orgasm denial are practiced by some female and gay male dominants, but that's a much more complex issue, and I won't ask you to get your brain around that just yet. Guys, you know what your cock feels like when you're 30 seconds or 10 seconds away from coming. It's almost like a chain reaction, and if you let it get to a certain point, there's just no stopping it. You know when you're getting close. Generally, the faster you're stroking, the quicker you're going to get there. If you want to try an easy method for lasting longer while making your woman happy, the next time you start feeling your cock getting away from you, just stop fucking for a couple of minutes. This is a technique that works well for everyone because you're going to bury your cock all the way inside of her and just leave it there while you take the time for some more foreplay-like activities. Work it around a little. Rotate your hips, let her know it's in there, but stop stroking and take the time to kiss her, nibble her ears, play with her nipples, or just tell her how much you love to fuck her. It'll be hot for both of you, and when you get back to pounding away, your cock will have calmed down a little bit and you will have bought yourself some extra longevity. Repeat as desired and remember that rhythm changes are generally a good thing. Girls, even if you're still too bashful to directly ask for what you want, you can certainly manage it just like that, baby, when he finds a rhythm that you like. Now we come to the positional aspect of pure stamina. This is all just physics and physiology, but it's something I haven't seen a whole lot of talk about elsewhere. Imagine the angle a given guy's hard-on stands at when he's standing up. Consider that the natural angle of a hard cock. When a sexual position pulls that cock to a dramatically different angle, like you have in, for example, the pile driver position, think of it as distracting the cock. Distraction is a pretty effective way to increase stamina, whether it's psychological or physical. If you try some of the positions that are fairly common in porn, you'll spend so much time making sure you don't lose your balance, fall over, and break your ass that you'll barely have any attention left for your cock, which will result in you lasting longer. Position is a tricky thing to play with, though, since there are a lot of porn positions that are fairly uncomfortable for the women as well, which distracts her, at which point you're working against yourself unless you're having some kind of a porn star experience evening. Next, we come to what I believe is method number 4. You can beef up your Kegel muscles. We usually talk about Kegel muscles as they relate to the pussy and tightening it up, but men have them too. The technical name for them is, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, pubococcygeus muscles, which I share mainly because I like to think someone intentionally slid the syllable cock in there. Probably not, but choosing to think so entertains me. I don't want to go into male Kegel exercises in detail, but Wikipedia does have a great in-depth article with links to instructions, and that's spelled Kegel. The basic concept is this. Your Kegel muscles are the ones you feel spasming when you're having an orgasm. You can flex them intentionally, and doing so regularly as an exercise has various positive sexual results. First off, your hard-ons will become stronger, as they say. With well-developed Kegels, you can make your cock basically dance around without touching it with your hands, which most women find entertaining as all hell. You can also contract them intentionally to distract yourself from orgasm. Depending on your position, this will also drive your cock into one side or another of your girl's pussy. Once you're really comfortable with the exercise and have the muscles strengthened, you may find yourself able to flex them after blowing a load to keep yourself from going limp at all. That's right, you may be able to blow a load and keep right on fucking with either no break or not much of a break. You might go a little soft after you get back in there, but keep at it and things will straighten themselves out pretty quickly. If you use this method, be aware that it will probably take longer to get off in round 2, and that may push you into the land of repeated lube breaks. As always, your results may vary. Still, this is a great trick if you can learn how to pull it off, and it gives you the option of fucking your girl's head right off of her shoulders every once in a while. The big picture is that if your woman is actually satisfied, you're lasting long enough, whether it's 2 minutes or 20. As I'll continue to remind you, most women can't get off just from cock anyway. Keeping that in mind, it's easy to see how quickly stamina becomes relative. That brings me to the last big thing guys need to focus on regarding the entire concept of male stamina. Women experience sex in a way that is completely different from the way that we experience it. We're wired and uneducated to think sex is the time between when we stick our dicks in and when we blow a load. For a woman, sex starts as soon as she's getting horny, maybe before you even touch her. From the woman's point of view, the best thing a guy can do to improve his stamina is spend more time on foreplay. Your hands and tongue don't go limp or have their performances cut short. Since you're not counting cock-induced orgasms towards her satisfaction, you need to spend plenty of time on foreplay anyway. And never be in a hurry. If you are, a woman will take that as a subconscious message that you're not enjoying it and trying to get it over with, which will lead her to cut it short to get it all over with, which has a good chance of ending in a fake orgasm and repeating the bullshit cycle that we've been repeating for 1,000 years. So don't be in a fucking hurry. Fake orgasms are the epitome of a slippery slope. Put chains on your fucking tires and make sure you get her off before you stick it in. After a woman has a couple of intense climaxes, whatever you're doing with your dick is pretty much just gravy. She's enjoying it, but she's past the point of feeling like she's gotten hers, so any more pleasure is like extra credit for you. This is where you start finding traces of truly outstanding sex. If you spend an hour giving a woman's body and pleasure your undivided attention, even if only 3 minutes of that time is spent fucking her, you're still working your way to superhero status when it comes to sex. Even if half that hour is spent just sitting on the couch, watching an end of a movie, casually playing with her pussy to tease it and get it all nice and wet, your overall sexual prowess is still getting credit for it because women view the whole experience in broader terms than we do. All in all, if you want better stamina, there are plenty of ways to get it. They all require some thought and some work on the guy's part, but if great sex isn't worth a little hard work, then what the fuck is? Girls, there are also many little things that you can do on your end to improve a cock's stamina. I separate that from the guy's stamina due to what I've been talking about for the last few minutes. The first is to make sure that your guy gets off more often. It's simple physics and physiology. The more pussy or head you give him, the longer his cock is going to last. That doesn't excuse him from working it from his end, of course, but it's damned important for motivation as well as the sensitivity effects. Another option is to spend more time riding cock. A lot of women aren't terribly comfortable going cowgirl or reverse cowgirl because a lot have never learned how to do it properly. They were never taught. I've helped more than my share of women down this path because watching a woman ride you is a great way to learn how she likes to get fucked. Once a woman's in the saddle, instead of being saddled, you can learn a lot about what kinds of rhythm and stroke she likes. Everyone is their own unique animal, and the ability to learn how a given person gets off best is the hallmark of a great lover. Guys who can blow a woman's mind from day one are simply the ones who pick up on the little cues quickly. Having her ride lets you sit back, relax, enjoy the show, watch the bouncing titties, and see how she really likes it when she's driving. Girls, the next time you're in the driver's seat, remember what I said about distraction. If you pull a cock off to an angle a little bit by shifting the position of your hips, as long as it's not too extreme, you can probably get more time out of that ride. Likewise, you can learn to read his expressions and body language so you can tell when he's getting close to coming, and you can just sit down on that cock and take a breather. He's probably already playing with your tits. Give him a little time to concentrate. Reach behind you, play with his balls, play with your own tits while he's watching. That's a crowd favorite. Cowgirl is an especially good position for playing with your own clit as well. So you can ride him instead of him riding you and practice some extremely mild orgasm denial on him. You can change your position to pull his cock downwards to distract him from coming, and above all, you can pay more attention to Mr. Willie. If your guy has a respectable reload time, another good trick is to blow him, have him go down on you till he's hard again, and then fuck you for Mr. Willie's round 2. Most guys will end up lasting longer the second time around as long as they can get it back up. I have yet to find myself in a situation without a raging hard-on when I've got a face full of pussy, and it's the perfect way to pass the time waiting for the reload. Now we come to the love her long time homework assignment. Guys, should you choose to accept your mission and happen to have a stunt pussy available for practice, your homework is to experiment with any one of the methods described in this show for improving your pure stamina. Don't feel the need to run a before and after clock or anything like that, but pick one or two things that I talked about here and give them a try. Like all my assignments, this is intended to give a bump to your sex life regardless of the results. If you're up for the full contact version of the home game, post a comment on the relevant homework post at sexualdarkage.com, letting the rest of us know what you tried and how it worked out for you. I dare you to shake off enough of the sexual dark age to join in a completely anonymous conversation with other consenting adults in which you reveal no more about yourself than you're comfortable with, but at least take the time to chime in and join the conversation. Speaking of the website, I decided last week that I'm going to create my very own written language in honor of my battle with the sexual dark age. I'm a huge fan of double entendres, hidden meanings, and silent subversion. This new language will not be spoken or even really written, but made of symbols. Several ancient cultures used hieroglyphic languages, meaning pictures that represented things, people, and concepts. Where they had their hieroglyphs, I present to you, my intrepid listeners, pornoglyphs. The idea came out of this show's need for a logo. I've always enjoyed doing rather perverse things with stick figures, and pornoglyphs naturally evolved while I was playing around with logo ideas. I wanted a logo that represented or distilled the spirit of the show. And if you go to the website, or you can see the new podcast art, you will see the symbol for give head. If I could only teach someone a single thing about better sex, it would be to give more head more often. It's a singular, central principle for anyone looking to get more out of getting off. That makes the give head pornoglyph perfect as the show's logo. I have quite a few other glyphs done, and I'll be sharing them with you as I cover the topics they relate to. I don't want to do something like promise a new one every episode, because I'm concerned I might end up forcing myself to release some half-assed bullshit, just to make a self-imposed quota work. Most of you won't actually see the give head glyph until after you finish listening and stop by the website to check out the new art. So I won't go into grand detail, but I will say that I intend to have one hell of a lot of fun with these things as time goes on. I want to take a moment to give a shout out to a couple other podcasters. Hank Davis and Mike Bell from Sex Headline News have got a really good thing going on over there, and it's pretty fucking funny. I've been considering doing a sex news type segment on this show, and I might still do it eventually, but for the moment, these guys are covering some entertaining shit on a weekly basis, so you might want to check them out. Thanks much to Nicole, Eva, and K Money for your comments on sexualdarkage.com. It's always great to hear from happy listeners. Nicole, we won't be having homework every episode, but it sounds like you and your man are already enjoying the course of study. I see you haven't posted a comment about the homework from last time, so I'd like to upgrade my dare to a double dog dare. I double dog dare you to share your results with the rest of the class. Eva, you delightfully naughty girl. So far, you've been the only one to post about the homework, and I commend you for deciding to play. There's plenty more where that came from, and we can only hope that more of the people playing the home game will decide to pipe up. K-Money, it's always good to see somebody out there already on an enlightened path, and I have to say I actually laughed out loud reading your comment on episode 3. I spent quite a few years in my youth working pizza delivery then restaurants, and it seems you and I took similar things away from those experiences. Sometimes, hell, a lot of the time if you're doing it right, life can imitate porn. As I mentioned in the last episode, sexualdarkage.com is in the process of being redesigned. It's not quite done yet, but it looks a hell of a lot better than the plain vanilla bullshit template that I've had running for the last few weeks. I'm stoked to open up some more lines of communication with you guys, and to support that, I'm now online with both Twitter and Facebook. On Twitter, I'm at JVAltheros, and I should be easy to find on Facebook if you're inclined. There are now links to both on sexualdarkage.com, and I hope to instigate some interesting conversation. I warn you that I'm totally new to Twitter, but I can't imagine myself being in that posting 10 or 20 times a day range. I will use it to share random entertaining shit or thought-provoking things that I run across online, as well as updates on the show or any of the websites. If there are any topics you'd like to see covered, or things you'd like to see covered better, questions you'd like to ask, or anything you'd like to shout back, I invite you to either email me at jvaltheros@gmail.com or post anonymously on sexualdarkage.com. As you can tell, I read every single comment, and I love hearing back from you guys. If you have iTunes and you're picking up on what I'm putting down, I ask you to drop me a good review or at least a rating on iTunes to help me get more visibility and spread things around a little bit more. If you'd like to share this show with anyone that doesn't do podcasts, just send them to sexualdarkage.com. Every episode is available through the Flash Player with no download required. I can't end the sexual dark age alone, but from what I'm seeing in my download stats, there are a fuck of a lot of you guys looking to improve your game in the only sport that actually matters. I suspected and hoped things might go this way, and it's fucking beautiful. This be me, JV Altheros, reminding you that great sex is just a choice you get to make when you're willing to put in the work. Peace until next time.